Hello, I'm Edgar, head of the international department at Liangma Law Firm. We have 100 lawyers and several branches in Guangdong province. We are here to take care of all of your legal problems in China. You name it, we'll solve it.
Hi, I'm Gary, and I'm back here today with Edgar to fix an issue that we're having. He previously helped us with a HR problem and legally represented us, which worked out perfectly for everybody.
Edgar was originally highly recommended to us by a good friend. So based on our previous experience with Edgar, my partner and I have decided to hire him again to assist with a financial disagreement that we're having with a local company. As usual, his advice and guidance has been amazing. We're already feeling confident that he will be able to resolve his issue quickly with a win-win for everybody. With Edgar, it's easy. He's Chinese with perfect English language and with an amazing understanding of Western culture. You always win when you choose Edgar.
Contact me anytime for your free legal consultation. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Hello everyone, Craig here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, Tell Craig Your Story. I'm super excited to be back doing the podcast after having 2.5 months off back in Australia. It was so great to see family and friends again, to catch up, but I'm happy to be back doing some podcasts. We're going to have some great podcasts. We've got some interesting people coming on in the next couple of weeks that you'll be really excited about. Today we'll be speaking to Edgar Choi. Now he has his law firm, Law in a Minute. Now Edgar is getting quite popular with the foreign community here in China, and he does cases in commercial and labor law. Now Edgar grew up in Hong Kong, but now resides in Shenzhen, China. He graduated from Fudan University Law School, and he's been the author of the Intellectual Property Commercial Company and Economic Law in a Minute. And he's also the co-author of Peking University textbook in Business Ethics. As we were talking to Edgar, he told us that he's going to be releasing a third book, which will be coming out at the end of the year. Now, Edgar talks about some of his cases that he's had over the last couple of years with his business, Law in a Minute, and you also heard the advertisement that you can find on Facebook. But before we go, please go to our website. We are at Podbean for another season. Tell Craig Your Story at podbean.com. We have a link tree there. We are on all the major streaming services. All you have to do is go to @Tell Craig Your Story. We have all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so make sure you give us a like and give us a comment if you like one of the episodes. We also have VK for our Russian listeners and WeChat for our Chinese listeners. All right, here we go. This is my chat with Edgar Choi on Tell Craig Your Story podcast. Hi Edgar, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? I'm perfect.
That's good to hear. Thank you very much for your time. You just told me that you had 20,000 contacts on WeChat, so I guess you're a busy boy, right?
Thanks. Yeah, it is indeed a booming business. The
booming
industry
business.
is really good. Yeah, it's a booming business.
But it's coming off now. I mean, you've just bought a new car, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So first, I just want to ask a bit of a review for 2022. What are some of the highlights? Also, talk to me about the lockdowns here in Shanghai. Oh, and in Shenzhen as well.
Yeah.
So we actually had like a week and nearly 2 weeks of lockdown in Shenzhen. Pretty much before it happened in Shanghai. So I think the Shanghai lockdown happened in April, right? Ours happened in March. I remember because it happened just before my birthday. So
Right.
It started with a few communities being locked down, and the whole of Shenzhen was locked down for a week. But it was okay. It's a bit different from Shanghai, because in Shanghai, I have like lots of alumni in Shanghai from my alma mater. And they have told me that they were having trouble buying food, groceries. They had to buy like a ton of beef and, cook his own steak like every day. And the refrigerator just couldn't stuff it in the refrigerator more. So that was the problem that they had. But in Shenzhen, it was okay. The delivery guys could still scoot around and send us our food, and we could still buy uncooked food online, fresh tomatoes, potatoes, vegetables, meat. We could buy that all online, and it's not a big problem in Shenzhen. And where I didn't really feel like cooking, I could just order it online, delivery. Yeah, so not a big issue in Shenzhen. I just took my computer home because my compound was actually locked down around 2 days before the actual lockdown, Shenzhen-wide lockdown happened. So I had my secretary send me my laptop, and boom, I set it up, and I was ready for the 10-day lockdown. Yeah.
Right. So did it affect your business in any way, or were you still able to?
Yeah, it actually did. A lot of cases got cancelled because I had a lot of cases in Shanghai, Ningbo, Hangzhou, Suzhou, places, in Jiangsu province and in Zhejiang province in Shanghai, and all of those got cancelled. So the clients were not happy. Well, I wasn't happy either, because I wanted to get the cases like over with and get them to justice ASAP, right? My team couldn't leave Shenzhen to defend them in their city, and right after I got released, that happened in the Delta area. So a few of the cases, like 5 of them, were postponed for 2 months. So that was pretty bad, in fact. Yeah.
But then once it opened up, you would have been flooded with all these things about work compensation, like what money are you allowed to have during this time, and it even affected me, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So, like, were you getting like lots of like foreign people, foreign teachers, and just businesses in general asking what's going on, like, with their salaries?
There are just so many victims of this. 2-month lockdown. Actually, it's not 1 month lockdown. It was a 2-month lockdown. I've had both employees and employers complain to me. So let's first talk about the employers, right? So the employers have to still pay their rent in full. So that's going to be a problem. Their rent is a huge, expense of any running business. So we had these rent issues and landlord dispute issues. And then we had the employees. They didn't get paid in full, because they didn't get paid at all, in fact, because the accountant wasn't at the office, and the bank, the lockdown was just so abrupt that the person in charge of the bank token just wasn't at the office. So nobody could really press the buttons and give them the salary. So the poor guys in Shanghai had to go without any money for 2 months, and that is terrible, man. Yeah, exactly. They didn't get paid for 2 months.
Yeah, so I was here for almost a month, and then I decided that there was no sort of, okay, we're going to open up in this month or this week or this day. So I ended up going back home to Australia to sort of see family. Yeah. So, but my school has come back now, so ready to work. But like, still doing tests like every day. Is that happening in Shenzhen as well, where you have to have like 72-hour PCR tests?
Oh, you must be joking. 72, we've got 24 right here.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Wow.
Like every day, like if I don't get the test, I can't go to my office. I can't enter my compound. Yeah, actually yesterday I had a small quarrel with not my security guard. I was visiting a friend's community, and
it was a Saturday, and on Saturday I didn't get my COVID test right. I didn't get my COVID test on Friday, so I had like 48 hours on Saturday. So the security guard wouldn't let me in, so I had an argument with him. I told him, I said, so the hospital, because I visited the dentist a week ago, and I said, even visiting the hospital only requires a 48-hour PCR test. So what kind of compound are you running that needs a 24? Even the hospital only needs 48. So explain to me, like, which law can you quote to me?
Yeah.
Quote to me.
Challenge me. Yeah.
Even the hospital only needs 48 hours. So based on what can you ask me for 24 hours? Explain to me. Then he let me in.
but I suppose you sort of get used to it. I mean, like when I went back to Australia, I was always like wearing my mask and washing my hands all the time. And my dad said, "What are you doing, son? Don't you wear your mask anymore? That's so 2020." Australia and US. I know like the UK are sort of got on with sort of their lives and just treating it now as a flu. So I really hope that can happen here in the short sort of distance.
Yeah.
and like at the start of the year, but for you and your business, what are some of the highlights for you so far?
Well, to be honest, COVID has affected my business pretty much. So the worst year was 2020, obviously. So, as my focus is mainly expats, in China or out of China. So obviously, expats were banned from entering China, like in 2020. It was extremely hard to get into China. PU letter was needed, and it was extremely hard to get that.
Yes.
Chinese vaccine, PU letter, this and that, the list just goes on. So it was extremely difficult for foreigners to enter China. And a lot of them didn't want to get into China because of the 3-week quarantine, right? Yeah. Not many people can survive 3 weeks in jail, okay? Yeah. Well, although it's a cozy jail. But, yeah, 2020 was a terrible year. But, thankfully, I switched from focusing on corporate law and more onto labor law. And that has sustained my business until now. And actually, I've gained a little bit of fame in the labor law sector, especially among teachers in China. So I'm now the to-go guy for English teachers in China. And, well, the business, I've switched my focus from 90% corporate law to 20% right now and 80% employment law instead. And that has kept the business growing. And actually, I've hired 2 new lawyers this year as well.
Oh, great.
Cases. I just can't do all of them right now.
Yes.
So I hire new lawyers to fly to different provinces and actually take the cases. So, well, business has been good in 2022 and in 2021 as well. So, but of course, it'll be even better when the borders reopen and I can go back to my main focus of corporate law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, are you finding that a lot of the teachers are coming to you? Like, what's like the main issue? Is it obviously money? Is it being in quarantine? What are some of the main issues like with the foreign teachers in China?
So the first main issue is that, so we all know that it's pretty hard to get teachers into China right now. There's the quarantine, there's the visa issues. So once the teacher comes to China and starts teaching in the school and maybe he wants to leave, right? And the school thinks that, well, hey, looky here. I spent so much effort in getting you into China, so we're going to sign a contract that says if you leave before the end of your contract, you're going to have to pay me at least 2 months of your salary because that's the amount of, I spent so much time and effort getting you into China, right? So from the employer side, they want the teachers to pay a huge amount of penalty if they want to resign. But to be honest, this is a free market. China's a free market and employees should have the freedom to choose whatever employer pays them more. So if school A only pays 15,000 and there's another school that is willing to pay 25,000, of course I would choose the better paying option, right?
Yes.
Obviously, or maybe in another scenario would be maybe the school is situated in the countryside and there's not much Western culture in some small places in China, and they come to China for the first time. After 3 months, Chinese food. Nobody speaks English in the village.
Yeah.
It's time to move to a big city, right? And that's where the problem kicks in. The school says, you're not leaving. We spent so much effort getting you here. So you're not leaving. If you want to leave, I will not give you your release letter, your cancellation letter. I will not help you transfer to a new employer. If you want to leave, go back to your home country. I'm not helping you in any way possible. But that's illegal. So employers are legally obligated to help employees leave the company because this is a right given to them by the law. But the employers will make bad use of the gray area here that like the cancellation letter is needed, and they just bully the foreigners in this case. But this doesn't happen to Chinese people. If I wanted to leave a teaching job, I could just goodbye. I'll send you a 30-day resignation letter, and bye. I'll pack up my bags and leave, and goodbye. But for foreigners, they need the employer's help. They need the letters, and that is where the employers will make a lot of trouble. So that's the first and most often seen issue in China regarding labor law. So the second problem would be the firing teachers illegally. So So China recognizes, well, obviously Australia is where you're from, it's a native English-speaking country, right? But China also recognizes countries like South Africa as native English-speaking countries. But actually, most of the people in South Africa speak Afrikaans or Portuguese, or maybe some Old Dutch, right? But they still recognize South Africa as a native English-speaking country. And maybe sometimes when a teacher comes to China, they may not like their accent, and parents complain because it has this Dutch accent in it. And parents complain, and the teachers are fired because of their accent. So, yeah, that's also another issue that I've seen, and it's actually pretty difficult to fire an employee in China. The employee has to really make some, not going to work for a week straight, maybe slapping the students, very aggressive behavior.
Something extreme,
just bad accent. I mean, there's no standard for how good an accent is, okay?
Right.
That is obviously not a valid reason to fire a teacher. But that is also an issue that employees face in China. And there's also a third issue that they may face in China, which is the getting the residence permits. So before 2021, the government was handing out stay permits like candy. Oh, you can't return to your home country? Here's a 30-day humanitarian visa. Oh, it's up and you can't find a new job. Here's another one. It's like giving out candy. Here's one for you. Here's one for you.
Yes.
One for you. But since around half a year to 8 months ago, the Chinese government changed their policy and started, since the double reduction policy that was a year ago actually. Yeah, time just flies by.
Yeah.
That was a year ago actually. I just realized. Yeah, not 6 to 8 months. That was a year ago. Okay. Yeah, time just flies by. So a year ago, China had their double reduction policy and started cracking down on training centers and some international schools. Not international schools, English schools. Okay, so basically they changed their attitude to English teachers 180 degrees. So in the past, whatever country you're from, doesn't really matter. You can be from Iran and you can still teach English. You can be from Russia and you can still teach English. But now, sorry, that's not the case here right now.
Yes.
It's much more difficult for a non-native to get a work permit and a residence permit in China. Yeah. And in the past, if you got caught for having the wrong title registered under your work permits, because many schools register non-natives as non-teaching staff, like general manager,
Right.
HR manager, administrative officer, so marketing officer, okay, advertisement officer. But actually, the real job is teaching English.
Right.
And now the police is really cracking down on these scenarios, and they will perform random checks on training centers and schools and ask to see work permits. And if they do find out that the title of the job is different from the actual job, then there will be trouble and fines, detention, and getting kicked out of China.
Oh,
and
yeah.
If foreigners, I've had a case of a Pakistani English teacher. Okay, so he got an administrative record in 2008, and the reason was going to a shady massage parlor. Okay,
Oh.
I think you get what I mean. Yeah, it was back in 2008. This was all the hype in Dongguan, so he got caught. He got caught at a massage parlor, a happy massage parlor. Okay, yeah, and he had a record under his name. That was 14 years ago, and this year when he applied for his residence permit, he got rejected.
Right.
At his record 14 years ago.
Wow.
And I've seen many other foreigners getting rejected because they did something bad. Maybe 2015 they got caught and teaching under a student visa or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the government didn't care. But now they're cracking down on. Yeah.
Edgar, I have so many stories to tell you about that. Like, I came around the time where it was less. See, like you said, there's people from Russia, there's people from Africa, all different countries coming here, South America, coming in and teaching English. And I always remember there was one time there where I was working for an online company, but they also went into the schools, the public schools, to teach English. And I was doing an online class, and then all of a sudden I seen all the teachers just get out and run out of the building. And it's like, guys, I've got 5 minutes of class. Wait for me. I'm going to have lunch soon. Anyway, the HR comes into my building and just goes, hey, the police are coming. You're the only one with a proper visa, and you need to say this, 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 and this, because all the others didn't. They weren't on the proper visa. One of them got caught, and the others were just lucky and went back to their own countries. So, yes, I can definitely see. I can understand where they're coming from too. I mean, if the parents they're spending so much money in the schools, private schools, to get the best education for their kids, and if you've got like a non-native speaker, sometimes you get into some bad habits. But I've known some non-native speakers that are great English teachers. Yeah, the parents don't want to pay top dollar.
To be honest, they need a white face.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I was hiring for teachers, and there was this girl from Chicago. She had a degree in education, and she wanted to apply for a job in Suzhou. That's where I was working at the time. And she said, I got this experience. I've worked in Beijing before. I want to come to Suzhou. And her resume was perfect. Anyway, I went to my boss and said, this girl is perfect. She's got experience. She's got a degree in education from Chicago. And my boss said, can I see a photo? I thought, why? Yeah, she was African American, and he just said, Craig, we can't hire her. And I was like, oh my God, that's so.
That's how the market is driven in China. Because little bit of history here is that China is like the new rich, and as we all know, 40 years ago China was nothing, and a lot of new wealthy people just appeared in society, right? Thanks to the governments, and they don't. I mean, the parents they don't really know English that well, but what they know. I mean, they don't know how good the accent is. They don't know how good the teaching is. But what they know is that if it's a white face, then he must be good, because we're learning English here. It's just like if I'm gonna teach Chinese, right, in Australia, so they'll definitely try and hire a Chinese face to teach Chinese instead of having maybe this Indian guy speaks Chinese better than me. Maybe he grew up in China, but they're still gonna hire me instead because I have the space here. This spells Chinese for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any cases like that, like where it's been like discrimination about their their weight or the color of their skin?
Well, I've seen many cases where, because I've seen many contracts, right? So on average, the white teacher always gets paid more than the black or brown teacher. So this is self-explanatory, basically. It's self-explanatory. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that it should be like your qualification and not so much on the image, and that's one thing that I really hope that will change in the future. But I want to talk about you now, Edgar. So tell us where you grew up.
I actually grew up still in China, okay? It's Hong Kong.
Oh, Hong Kong.
Part of China.
Oh, you grew up in Hong Kong.
It's a special administrative region. Well, okay, I'm not going to go into the history of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways. So I grew up in Hong Kong and I studied until high school. So I studied in a Catholic school, actually. Everything was taught in English. And we had teachers from Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, well, America, okay? We had, but mostly British teachers, because Hong Kong was a British colony back then. So, anyways, so we went to a Catholic school, and even our priest, we called him the Father, okay? Yeah, we had these assemblies in the morning. We sang hymns, we prayed to God, and after high school, when I was in grade 11, so my Chinese teacher, because I was the class captain at that time, and my Chinese teacher told me, he said, do you know how I got this job being the Chinese teacher at your school? I said, how do you get it? He said, I graduated from Peking University in China, and that's why I want this job, because teachers at my school get paid good salary, okay, because it's a good school. So then I thought to myself, looks like this, like at that time I didn't think of, being a lawyer or whatever. I said, so like even if I study in the mainland and come back to Hong Kong, I can get a nice paying teaching job. Because at first I wanted to be a teacher, actually. Yeah. I like speaking. Yeah. So he planted a seed into my brain when I was in grade 10. Then grade 11 came and he started promoting, because it was time for us to think of our future and, think of which university we wanted to go to. So half of my classmates chose the US or the UK or Australia. Most of them, yeah. So they all, when we graduate, we're in like different parts of the world right now. Yeah. We've got people in Scotland, we've got people in Ireland, we've got people in New Zealand, Canada, Australia. But I was the only person in my class that chose China. Yeah. So why did I choose China? Because the reasons are pretty simple. So the population in Hong Kong is 8 million people. So if I were to qualify as a lawyer in Hong Kong, I can only serve 8 million people, right?
Yes.
But if I qualified in China, the population is 1.4 billion. So the market is much, much, much bigger.
Yes.
And so actually a bit of more background information on me is that my father is also a lawyer, but he's qualified in Hong Kong and the UK. So back when Hong Kong was still a British colony, everybody would study in the UK because Hong Kong law and UK law is pretty much the same, okay?
Right.
So everybody would go to study in the UK and then practice in Hong Kong as a lawyer. But after Hong Kong was returned to the PRC. Back when I was maybe around 30 years ago, the GDP of Hong Kong was nearly 25% of the whole of China.
Right.
So back then it was the obvious choice. Work in Hong Kong. China's no good, right? 30 years ago. But now, Hong Kong's GDP ranks like number 4. It's behind Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. I think it ranks number 4. It's behind these 3 cities already. So obviously, China is the smarter choice right now. Yeah.
And was your mum involved in law as well?
No, she works in a trading company in Hong Kong. Yeah, which manufactures toys in China. Yeah.
Right. So growing up in Hong Kong in that time as a kid, was it fun times? Or what memories do you have growing up in Hong Kong?
Well, so Hong Kong has 2 biggest impressions on me. The first is that it is overcrowded. Yeah. So, and the pace of living is just so fast in Hong Kong. If you walk slower in Hong Kong, you get bumped, all right? Yeah. Seriously. And number 2 is that space is extremely expensive in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is the most expensive city to live in the world, on planet Earth, okay? So, to get a very small apartment in Hong Kong. What do I mean by very small? Very small means 25 square meter.
Right.
That would cost you 3 million, okay?
Yeah.
3 to 4 million RMB. For 3 million, you can buy a villa in the countryside, okay? So that obviously is crazy. And for 10,000, you could rent maybe a 40 square meter apartment in Hong Kong. But now I'm living in a 10,000 monthly rent apartment, which is 100 square meters. So obviously Shenzhen is the better choice for me. Yeah.
Yes.
Why would I pay 10,000 to live in a coffin in Hong Kong? Like, that is no bigger than maybe a parking space where I can enjoy a 3-bedroom, 2-toilet apartment in Shenzhen. It doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. So that's why I decided to stay in China after I graduated. Yeah.
Right. So was your dad a big influence on your studies and your further career?
Well, one thing that he did influence me about is obviously because my dad was born in a village and he was the poorest family in the village, and the law changed his life. He went from a village boy to like the grassroots of the grassroots of society. Okay, from a I wouldn't say upper class. I would say middle class at least, right? Middle class. So obviously, I wasn't born in riches either. So my family also, we call it the sandwich class in Hong Kong.
Right.
So we aren't rich enough to buy our own private property, but we're still better than, let's say, the grassroots who can't afford even their housing. So we could buy for a cheaper price government-owned property, and for a, let's say, 60% discount. Okay, so we're the sandwich class. So to me, being in the legal industry, I can raise myself from at least the sandwich class to maybe the upper class one day. So yeah, so I did get influenced. Yeah,
that's great.
Being a lawyer can definitely, bring me from the sandwich class to at least the middle class. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you finished high school, and then I do believe that you studied in, is it Fudan? Fudan?
Yeah,
Fudan
University.
Yeah, Fudan University. So how did that all come about? Why did you choose this university?
So what happened was when I was in grade 12, so my school has 2 quotas for Chinese universities in China. So we had offers from Peking University, Tsinghua University, and Fudan, so the top 3 in China. So they gave us 2 quotas. Okay, so the headmaster of my school could recommend 2 students to go to study in these universities. without actually doing the college exams. So based on my high school performance, they would interview me and will decide whether to accept me or not with the headmaster recommendation. So I enrolled in this because back then, so I always wanted to study out of Hong Kong because I did have a little bit of I had the summer camp back when I was in grade 8, and I enjoyed different cultures. And I really wanted to leave Hong Kong because I believe that Hong Kong is not the future. So
Yes.
the economy of Hong Kong has been deteriorating over the past few years. But anyways, so I told myself I gotta get out of here and I gotta see the world for myself, right? So my family didn't have enough money for me to go to the UK or US or Australia or Canada. So China was the affordable option for me. China was the affordable option, so I chose China.
And was there pressure? Like, being here now for 5 years, I've seen a lot of the parents, when they get to that sort of high school part of their life, there's a lot of pressure from the mother and father, and maybe in other countries as well, but I see it more in China, where there's so much pressure for the kids to study, to get the best job, to go to the best university. What was your experience like? Did you have that same sort of pressure?
You bet, mate. You bet. So,
yeah.
To be honest, my childhood was not a happy one. So I didn't get much time to play computer games, play with friends. I didn't get the chance to pretty much have any entertainment at all. Okay, so I slept only 5 to 6 hours per day. So I woke up at 7:15 every day. Went to school at 8. School ended at around 3 to 4 p.m. And then after that, I had extracurricular classes because everybody else was having these classes. So of course, I had to have them as well. So I had these classes until at least I would say 6 to 9 p.m. Okay. So, and when I got home, my mom had the cane in her hand and start revising. Yeah. So,
you will learn.
well, obviously I was exhausted already, like from the whole days of school and classes. But yeah, I had to, sit at the desk and start memorizing stuff. But my brain was not functioning already because it had been functioning for 12 hours straight. But that's how I lived 18 years of life. Every day.
Like you said, that's the normal.
That is the norm. My Catholic school didn't really. They believe, well, their thinking is a bit like Hong Kong. So Hong Kong has a laissez-faire economy, right? The government doesn't really control the businesses, and my school doesn't actually really control the students. They don't get much homework. We only get like 2 or 3 pieces of homework per day. But the school knows that the parents will make you study hard. That's how we got into the school in the first place, because of the fierce parents. Yeah.
And I can definitely see the students and the people that have been outside of China that have like studied overseas, because they come back with this whole different mind frame, and it's like, oh, we don't have to do that much study. We don't have to. We're going to go out and have a good time. So yeah, it's just different cultures, but I try and with the kids that I have, I'm trying really hard to sort of like just go out and have fun.
Well, to be honest, going to college does not necessarily equal success in life. So I think happiness is the most important aspect in life.
Yeah,
we can see. Well, we have many famous billionaires, right, that dropped out of college and they still made a fortune. So, but of course, going to college increases the success rate, of getting a better job. So obviously, but it does not equal success. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like the whole work ethic here is just unbelievable. Like they just want to work. So speaking of that,
willing to. I have this client who runs a printing factory in Dongguan. Okay.
Yes.
So, his employees are all willing to work overtime hours for more money, as long as you pay them enough. They're like, I want more hours. I want to retire early. I'm willing to work 14 hours per day as long as you pay me right. So that is the culture. Yeah. But there's also something good to this, which is productivity, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And if they're getting paid enough, why not, right? It is their choice. As long as they're okay with it, as long as it's not forced labor, it's totally okay. Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of that, what do you do outside of work? Like, do you play an instrument?
Yeah, I do.
I do.
I play the piano. Yeah, I play some Chopin and Beethoven. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you do that like on a weekend or at clubs, or do you just do that as a hobby?
As a hobby. So I basically practice at least 5 hours per week, 5 to 7 hours. So I try and squeeze at least half an hour to an hour every day after work. But recently that hasn't happened because I've been flooded with work. Yeah. But I still squeeze at least 2 hours from the weekends, and I still take my piano classes every fortnight.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduated from Fudan University in law, and then where did you go from there? Like, what were your plans after you graduated? What was your focus, to start your own business, or what were your plans at that stage?
I'm glad you asked this question. Okay, so after I graduated from college, I actually worked in a law firm first for nearly 1.5 years. It was one of the better law firms in Shanghai, one of the top 3, I believe. Top 5, not really top 3. So the pay was good. The pay was 20-something K per month, which was pretty good. And I worked as a trainee solicitor for a year before I got the actual license. So, but I didn't like the work. I hated it, actually.
Right.
We had to work 12 hours per day and every Saturday.
Oh.
So, although the pay was fine, it's a very high pay compared to other graduates from other majors. So they're getting paid like 8,000, or I'm getting paid 3 times. So the pay was awesome, but I did not have the time to spend it. So work was really boring. Back then I specialized in property law, real estate law. So we had basically 3 big clients, real estate tycoons. So they had plots and plots of land and shopping malls and whole blocks of buildings. So what we did was help them do due diligence on, like, maybe they wanted to sell this building, right, or buy a new building. So we had to do due diligence for them. Maybe they wanted to sell this whole shopping complex.
Yes.
And I had to go through 500 rental contracts per week.
Wow.
So what I did was, as I'm just a trainee solicitor, I didn't get my driver right. So I took a taxi with my colleagues. We each took like five boxes of these contracts back to the office, and we unstapled them, we scanned them, we put in the most important, like how much is the rent, how big is what is the square meters of the office, and any special maybe rent-free months for them, any special regulations. We put all these 500 contracts into an Excel. That was the job for a whole year.
Right.
So either we were doing this in the office, or we were sent to the client's office in a different city, maybe in Hangzhou, maybe in Guangxi, maybe Beijing, whatever. So the whole team of 2 lawyers, first-year lawyers, plus me, the trainee solicitor, we would go. I was the lowest ranking. I did the most boring work, while they did the a little bit more complicated work. So we mowed through hundreds of contracts because we had to finish the project. We had to get it done before we flew back to Shanghai. So we were on a very tight time frame. So the pressure was great. Yeah.
What did you learn from that experience?
Hard work.
Hard work.
How to work 12 hours per day. And I'm still working 12 hours per day now, but I'm happy because, but I'm more happy now because I'm doing the work I love. So back then I didn't get any chance to use English at all. Yeah, I didn't get any chance. So anyways, so after I finished the 1 year of trainee solicitor, I actually got an offer from the real estate firm. They liked me because the real estate firm was a Hong Kong-based real estate firm. They wanted me to be their in-house lawyer. So I did think about it. They offered quite a good salary. Then Chinese New Year came, and that was year 2020 when COVID first broke out. That was when COVID first broke out. So I took some time to consider the offer, and I went home to celebrate Chinese New Year, see my family, right? And COVID broke out, and I had to stay at home at that time. So as China was infected, and Hong Kong was a safe harbor at that time. So I had no job at the time because I had left the law firm, and I hadn't accepted the offer yet because nobody was there at work. It was Chinese New Year and COVID. So I was at home, bored. Then, okay, maybe let's start blogging about some interesting law facts. And why not finish the project that I wanted to start? I had this project that I was going to write a law book on interesting legal facts targeted at Chinese. Why not use this time and write my book and blog about it at the same time? So that's what I did. So I finished. I stayed in Hong Kong for 3 months at that time, and I finished the book. Finished 2 books actually at that time because I had nothing to do at all. And
it says here you're author of the Peking University textbook for business ethics.
Business ethics, yeah, and also 2 other Chinese books, which is about IP law and business law. Anyways, so
that's an amazing achievement. Well done.
Thanks. Well, thanks to COVID. Thanks to COVID, yeah.
So you got to be see that whole productive thing. You know, you can't stop and watch TV. You got to be busy. It's drilled into you now. So
yeah, exactly. So I started blogging about the law, and well, COVID hit, and why not blog about getting paid during COVID? So I started blogging about that, and that went viral. I got like 50,000 views in less than a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
Then I started thinking, this might be a market for me. So back then I didn't have my, because as a lawyer, you gotta register your license under a law firm to be able to practice. So at that time, I couldn't do so because I had just taken it out from the Shanghai law firm, and I had not planted it into a new law firm yet. So I just answered the questions for free, with no charge, and did that for a month, and I got famous for being the kind guy. Yeah, and everybody came to me for labor law questions. So I was like, maybe this will earn me a living, and in late March, I think early April, late March, I think in middle of April, 2020. So China announced that they would be closing their borders soon. So time to go back to China first, at least go to Shenzhen, right? And figure out what to do. So I went back to Shenzhen because the Shanghai offices were still closed back then. And I couldn't get my new offer at another Shanghai law firm, or the real estate company either. So I was like, no, God knows when this thing is going to clear up. So why not join a Shenzhen law firm first and see how it goes, right? As I did have a bit of savings, as I couldn't spend the money back then in Shanghai. I had a little bit of savings, so the savings will last me for at least half a year. So why not rent an apartment in Shenzhen and join a law firm in Shenzhen? So that's what I did. I joined the law firm that I'm still in right now. So I rented a very small cubicle, which cost me 600 yuan per month. Okay?
Wow.
I rented a small cubicle and started setting up my setting up my own clients and business. And from there, from a small cubicle, then I rented a small room that cost me 4,000 RMB per month, because clients started coming in, and so I rented a small room at the end of 2020, and with no windows, because it was the cheapest room available at that time.
Right.
Then from the small room, then to this room, which costs double the price. Yeah. And I started hiring my own. I hired my first lawyer. So I hired my own because the cases were starting to stack up. I didn't have time to talk to new clients. So I was like, it's time to have somebody tackle the cases, or at least write the claims and prepare the evidence for me, right? So I hired my first lawyer to work for me. So I specifically chose somebody who majored in English as a bachelor's degree. Yeah. So this way they could communicate with the clients in a smooth manner. So, because at first I interviewed some lawyers who graduated from law majors, and their English was terrible.
Yeah.
And so I said, why not change to English majors with a Master of Law degree? So I think these guys will be better. But of course, these guys are much more expensive, but it's worth the money. Yeah, and the clients are happy with them. So, so I started hiring the first person, and after 2 months, I hired a trainee solicitor to help her as the cases were increasing. And then I hired a third lawyer, and then I hired a fourth trainee solicitor, and now I have 4 people working for me.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. So that brought you up to now. You have five staff. 4 staff.
Yeah, 4 employees.
Why the name? Law in a Minute.
Law in a Minute, right? So, at first the idea came from the Chinese book. So the Chinese book is called, a very bad translation, but a literal translation is Understanding the Law in a Second. Okay, in a second. So I played around with words, and in my blog, most of the articles can be read. At first my articles were real short, like really, it could be read in a minute. So law in a minute. So
there you go.
Yeah, my first articles were less than 300 words, and I didn't put any legal basis. I just put the basically question and answer. Then I started making them longer afterwards, yeah, because I wanted to explain more in an article.
Yeah, right. That's so cool.
The government doesn't really care about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to serve the foreign clients, right? And
that's absolutely
many law firms in China that are doing the same. But just that they are targeting the conglomerates, maybe like Walmart, Mercedes-Benz, really top foreign companies. But I'm trying to target the middle to low end, like individuals and small, medium enterprise, because they can't afford the real expensive legal service that the top law firm provides. But the other option for them would be to find a local Chinese lawyer who doesn't really speak English. So that's where I found this niche market.
So let's talk about that, Edgar. I mean, I think some people would be a little bit afraid to hire like a Chinese lawyer, a foreign person. So what does it cost to hire like someone like yourself? I mean, people would just assume it's too expensive. I can't talk to Edgar.
Well, that is a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is totally a misunderstanding. So I charge pretty reasonable rates. I charge less than 20,000 for each lawsuit. And the reason why I can charge a medium rate instead of because if you go to a top law firm with Oxford graduates, they're going to charge you at least 50 to 80K per case, right? But why can I charge this reasonable rate is that I have a team to handle the cases. So since nearly a year ago when I started having my first employee, I don't personally go to trial anymore. So I just send out my associates to tackle the lawsuits, and that's how I control costs and, keep the legal costs low and affordable while still providing good service for foreigners in China and out of China. Yeah.
Can you remember your first
client, right?
Yeah, first one? What was the first case?
Well, the first client that ever paid me was a Ecuadorian and Swedish guy. So he had two passports, Ecuador and Sweden. So this guy owned a toy factory in Shantou. So he had a girlfriend in China, and of course he was rich because he owned a toy company.
Right.
Yeah. So he wanted to buy an apartment in China, in Shenzhen, in Longgang actually. And as you know, foreigners can't buy apartments in China unless you meet certain strict regulations like paying for the social insurance for a X amount of years. So he was not eligible for getting a bank loan and buying property in Longgang. So, but he had the money. He wanted to buy it under his girlfriend's name, but actually own it. So he needed a good contract that was written in both Chinese and English because his girlfriend didn't read English that well, and he didn't read Chinese at all. So he read my articles and he was like, okay, let's visit this guy and let's see if he's good, right? And he liked me, and I scored my first contract back then for 6,000 RMB. That was the first deal. Yeah.
Well done, Edgar. And then the only way is up. That's great. I worked in a training center for nearly 2.5 years, and I had some really good times, but it ended up going bankrupt. So I can see lots of people going to you, and they were going bankrupt after the pandemic. And have you had certain cases with training centers? Because they're still happening now, but like, for example, my school that I worked with, we had 25 training centers in Shanghai. Now they have 2. So I had to leave because they weren't paying me salary. So do you have an example of a training center that you've...
Many.
Yeah.
From Shenzhen to Shanghai to Ningbo to Nanjing.
Why is that, Edgar?
The most obvious reason is the policy of the Chinese government. So they're hitting down hard on the real estate and the education industry. And the main reason behind doing this is because China is facing one big problem right now. And the problem is there are not enough babies in China. Nobody is willing to give birth. And, well, of course, there are many reasons for not willing to give birth. And the main reason is that it's too expensive. So why is it too expensive? The reason is because back then in China was having this overpopulation problem, and they controlled it using the one-child policy. And parents only wanted to have boys because boys, I'm sorry to say, okay, boys have a higher status than girls in traditional Chinese culture. And the main reason is because boys carry the surname of the family, okay? But girls, when they marry outside, they change their surname, okay? That's the main reason. And number 2 is that boys, in the past, when China was an agricultural society, how much money your family could make was really based on how many hands you have, right? If you have like 10 children and all farm the land, you can grow more rice, potatoes, crops, and you can, build more houses and your family will be richer. But now, obviously, that is not the case. And it is really expensive to just raise a child in China just because of the fierce competition. So it is extremely, extremely difficult for Chinese kids to go to top universities in China, like Peking University, Fudan, and Tsinghua. So you gotta be in top 100 of the province to get into these universities. And there are just so many people in China fighting for this. So that's the main reason. And the second reason is that there are just too many boys in China because of the one-child policy.
Right.
And it is really hard for boys to find wives right now. Yeah, I'm single, okay? It's even hard for me as well. Yeah, so obviously it's a big problem for males in China to find a partner. And even if they find a partner, it is difficult for them to raise a child as it is just too expensive because it's a vicious cycle. If you have a child, if it's a boy, you got to spend so much money on his education. You got to buy a flat for him to live in. Because, if you want to have a wife in China, number one, you got to have a house. Number two, you got to have a car. Number three, you got to have a nice job, a savings, okay? 3 very important factors of finding a wife in China. So that's the main reason behind this. So China is cracking down on the education industry to make education more affordable. They're using the same path as Korea did, South Korea. And they're also cracking down on the housing market to make housing more affordable and encouraging people to have more babies. So China will not enter the same problem that Japan is now facing. And it is a huge, huge problem. Yeah. Yes. The aging society problem. Yeah. So anyways, that is the main reason why Chinese is slamming down on the training center industry. And also COVID as well. COVID is also a big issue. Well, rent is still paid, but there's no income. And how can businesses survive in China? It's really impossible.
Yes.
With the government slamming hard down on the industry and COVID and, all these quarantine regulations and how difficult it is to get foreigners into China. It's supply and demand.
Yes.
Difficult to get teachers into China means higher salary and higher expenses, right?
That's right.
And tuition fees. The economy in China is not that good. Obviously, the whole world we're in a bear market right now. So parents are not willing to spend that much on anything. Buying a new house, new car, education for kids. So teachers are so expensive, rent is so expensive, and that's why businesses have to close down, like from 20 centers to 1 only. And this has happened to even Wall Street English closed down.
Yes. Yes.
And that is a multinational company.
Yes. And finally, the last one, you talked a little bit about it before, contracts, especially Chinese contracts. Are they for real? Like, I see your blogs and it's always like some sort of contract dispute and when the employee wants to leave or they don't get paid or something like that. So is there any sort of standout that you have, like case that you have with a contract? I mean, the last blog that you had was from Shenzhen, a teacher in Shenzhen.
Yeah, the Chinese culture is that the contract is a piece of paper, and it is just a piece of paper. Yeah, so that is one of but it's a double standard. It's a piece of paper when you talk about it, but when I talk about it, it's the law. The law, baby. Yeah.
Yes.
In the contracts, there's always a contract breach penalty, which is obviously invalid and illegal. So employers cannot fine employees for leaving China. But employers will put that in the contract anyways, just to threaten you and say, hey, look, this is in the contract. So if you want to leave, pay me 2 months of your salary. So But when it's the other way around, and like in the contract, maybe it says a habitable dormitory should be provided to employees, but maybe the cupboard is moldy, maybe there's mice in the apartment, and hey, in the contract it says there should be a good dormitory.
Yes.
How do we define good? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's livable, right? So that's good. So it's a double standard, unfortunately, in some of the cases.
The first time I moved to China, it said like accommodation provided, and we went from one place to another place to another place. We're in four apartments in one day. I'm going, what have I done? What have I done? Why am I here? But it all sort of worked out. Is there one case that stands out that was like really, really weird? Like I've also noticed on here that you're talking about alcohol levels and how to buy a Benz with only 7,500. So you're not just mentioning about the foreign people.
Okay, I'm talking about the alcohol level. So that's actually a real case. Okay, yeah. It's a case that I took in Shenzhen. So, well, not me personally. I gave it to one of my associates. So, I changed the story a little bit. So the real story goes like this. So this expat he owns a car, okay? And he was out drinking in Coco Park, okay? Which is a nice place for drinks in Shenzhen. So, his name is on the car, okay? So he drove the car there with his male buddy, and they had some, and they split up, okay? He went drinking with his girlfriend, the Chinese guy, which is a roommate. He went chatting with his other friends, okay? So after an hour, his Chinese friend told him, hey, I want to leave. I want to go somewhere else with this new girlfriend that I've just met, right, at the club. So he says, give me the car keys. I'll call a chauffeur, right, and get us home. So this foreigner gave his Chinese friend the keys and forgot about the case, okay?
Oh no.
And forgot about it, but that's okay. So around 6 hours later, he was arrested by the police. He was arrested. So the police asked him, are you the owner of this car? Yes. The driver was caught drunk driving this car. So you are now an accomplice to the case because you guys went together to Coco Park and you knew that he was drunk and you still lent him your car. So you're also liable because the car is yours and you lent it to him knowing that he was drunk. And now you're going to jail too. So that's a real case. Yeah.
Wow.
We fought it off. He didn't go to jail. Yeah.
Wow.
The case never even went to court.
Oh, wow.
We kept it off at the prosecutor's office. Yeah.
Very good. What does the future hold for Edgar?
I think the future is bright for Edgar. So I can see that little secret here is that I'm going to publish my English book on, labor law. Probably next month. This month, yeah. I think it's going to be published this month or next month. So I'm just deciding on the book cover right now, and I'm writing the prelude for the story. So for the book, so once that is done, it will be published, and well, I think this will increase my fame and reputation as a lawyer who targets the expat market in China, and I'll go and have some book events, maybe some seminars, maybe some workshops in all of China. So I'm going to drive all over China and, have some nice workshops and, educate everybody about labor law. And I think this will double my business. Yeah. And I can hire another 4 lawyers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before the end of the year, hopefully. Yeah.
And tell us about your social medias and where can our listeners get in contact with you.
So I'll share with you my WeChat QR code, which you guys can just scan and add my WeChat. It's pretty simple. And I do have WhatsApp as well. I'll also send it to Craig. And I have a Facebook page as well, and an Instagram page. And the Facebook page and Instagram page is pretty simple. It's just Law in a Minute. Even my books are called Law in a Minute. So the book I'm going to publish is called Business Law in a Minute. And I'm actually writing another book. So I do it in bits every week, and I write like 3 articles per week. And I think that the next one will also be published by the end of the year. It's called 101 Questions and Answers, which is the top 100 questions that I get asked every day. Because I get like at least 100 messages per day and at least 20 people add me every day. So I know the most popular questions that everybody has. And why not compile this into a book? And this will really be able to help people, because these will be the top FAQ of every foreigner in China. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, Edgar, just before we go, I just ask some quick questions, and you give me your top 2 or 3 favorite as of today. Different subjects. Are you ready, Edgar?
Bring it on.
All right. So, Edgar, tell me your top 2 or 3 favorite musicians.
Musicians. Okay. Chopin and Beethoven. Okay. And Queen. I actually like Queen quite a lot.
Oh, very nice.
Rock.
Yeah.
Rock. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right. And sporting. Tell me your 2 or 3 top favorite sporting teams.
I don't actually watch any kind of sports, so but I can tell you my top 3 favorite sports.
Okay.
Yeah, snowboarding, scuba diving, and swimming. Yeah. Actually, wakeboarding.
Tell me 2 or 3 places internationally that you've been to, and then 2 or 3 places that you'd like to go to in the future.
I've been to Italy. I've been to the US. I've been to Egypt, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And where do you want to go to in the future?
I would like to visit Iceland to see, the lights and that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. I would also like to go to...
What about Australia?
Yeah, I would like to go scuba diving there.
Yeah, Great Barrier Reef. Yeah.
And definitely Peru, because I want to see the Mayan culture. Yeah. Definitely Peru.
Yeah, absolutely. And final question: who is your greatest inspiration or hero, and why?
I would say Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky was also a lawyer. Okay?
Yes.
His parents forced him into the legal business. But later on, he found enjoyment in music, and he composed so many beautiful pieces.
Absolutely.
So I actually watched the ballet in Russia, in Moscow, and really, I still remember the ballet. It was just so good. Like, we don't get this in Shenzhen, and it's really something that I would like to see in Shenzhen, but we don't get it here. There's no such culture here, and it really, it just saddens me, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to watch the Nutcracker and the Swan Lake, It's just a beautiful piece of music. I don't really have to be a lawyer the rest of my life. Once I have enough capital, I would like to do something that I really like playing the piano. Yeah. Maybe a famous pianist. Yeah.
And it's so popular too here in Shanghai as well. Like, they're crazy about their music, not just classical, but there's like any sort of music. They really, really push it, and there's lots of places that you can play music, which I really, really like about Shanghai and China. Edgar, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Great to have somebody on our side, fighting for someone, because when a foreigner comes to China for the first time, it's difficult. It's just like any country. If you go to a foreign place for the first time, it's always difficult, and some people might take advantage of that. So, and they just go along with the flow. They just want make people happy. And yeah, so I'm really glad what you're doing, and you're helping a lot of people. And even some of my friends, that's how I got in contact with you. Like, you are the lawyer for some of my friends. So all the best. Make sure the listeners that you go and check out his website. And if you're in China at the moment, please get in contact with him, because he'll sort you out and he'll generally win.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Edgar. Thank you for your time.
Alrighty. Okay. See ya.
Bye.